You could feel the cracks forming before training camp even started, and the moment Shedeur Sanders was drafted, the noise wasn't just loud, it was deafening. Forget that he hadn't taken a single NFL snap yet. He was Deion Sanders' son. He had swagger, charisma, and the kind of ready-made narrative the Browns have never been able to resist, even when history has taught them they should. But here's the twist: this time it isn't the fans screaming for a quarterback change, and it isn't just the media stirring up drama, though they're happily pouring gasoline on the fire. No, the spark is burning inside the locker room itself, with multiple veteran players reportedly believing Shedeur should already be QB1, not in the preseason, not in a gradual rollout, but right now, as in yesterday. That's the part that should rattle you, because if you're paying attention, the real story isn't the hype, it's the fractures it's causing. The longer head coach Kevin Stefanski keeps him on the bench, the more the locker room splinters, and the higher the stakes rise for a coach who's already lived on the hot seat more than once. Stefanski is trying to hold egos together, keep the team cohesive, and salvage another season, but suddenly he's got a rookie who hasn't even started and yet has become the gravitational center of the entire franchise. And that's where the real drama begins, because whether you believe Shedeur is ready or not, the locker room clearly does, and that belief might be powerful enough to shake this team from the inside out. Not by performance, but by presence, and that's the part that makes this whole thing so volatile. The Browns never wanted this headache right now. The plan was simple: ease Shedeur Sanders in, let him learn the system, avoid the franchise's all too familiar mistake of tossing a rookie quarterback straight to the Wolves and praying he somehow survives. But the problem is, the Wolves are already in the locker room and they're hungry. Veterans, guys with real clout, some of them respected leaders, have started openly questioning why Sanders isn't taking first-team reps. At first it's whispers, then it's grumbling, then it's little jabs in interviews. Next thing you know, passive-aggressive Instagram stories start popping up, cryptic tweets, even a few conveniently liked posts calling for Shedeur to start. And suddenly the Browns aren't just losing games, they're losing trust. Here's the kicker: Shedeur hasn't done a single thing wrong. He isn't demanding the job, he isn't badmouthing teammates or coaches. In fact, by every account he's carried himself like a pro. But the hype surrounding him is so magnetic, so overpowering, that it's ripping the locker room in two without him lifting a finger. And when you zoom out, you realize this isn't just about one rookie quarterback, it's about the Browns' entire identity crisis. For decades, Cleveland has lived in a cursed loop of quarterback chaos, failed expectations, and endless turnover. They've tried every archetype imaginable: the blue-collar vet, the reckless gunslinger, the fading has-been, the safe game manager, the high-draft savior, and every time, the cycle ends the same way, in ashes. Now along comes Shedeur. Flashy. Confident. Born into greatness. And most importantly, untouched by the Browns' toxic quarterback past. He's not weighed down by baggage, he's carrying something the franchise has been chasing for half a century. Hope. Or at least that's what people want to believe, because the hype machine doesn't stop, it multiplies. The media is practically feeding on Shedeur Sanders. Every practice clip goes viral, every routine throw in shorts becomes future of the franchise, every scramble in a 7-on-7 drill turns into the Browns finally found him. Talk shows run it on loop, Twitter wars break out like clockwork, and everyone wants to be the first to say "I told you so" when his moment finally comes. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski is clinging to his game plan like it's a life raft on the Titanic, insisting Sanders isn't ready, that he needs time, that the organization can't afford to repeat history by rushing him. And on paper, that logic checks out. But locker rooms don't live on paper, they run on energy, chemistry, trust. And right now, that energy is fractured, volatile, threatening to break apart from the inside. Because once you start losing your veterans, the foundation starts to crumble. And here's the cruel, hilarious irony of it all: for the first time in decades, the Browns have a quarterback everyone is genuinely excited about, and he's not even playing. It's the most Browns thing imaginable, and it puts Stefanski in a no-win trap. Play Shedeur too early and he struggles? You ruined him. Wait too long and the team collapses? You cost them the season. There's a bigger theme here, one that stretches far beyond Cleveland and is starting to infect the entire NFL. The cult of quarterback potential. In today's league, it's not enough to simply be good, you have to be marketable, and Shedeur Sanders is as marketable as it gets. He's got the last name, the charisma, the college highlight reel, the social media reach, and the spotlight that comes with being Deion's son. The Browns haven't seen that kind of off-the-field shine in, well, maybe ever. But with that spotlight comes heat, and right now that heat is cooking the locker room from the inside out. Veterans are frustrated with the coaching staff's conservative approach, others are bitter that the hype around Sanders is drowning out actual performance, and the younger guys who came up watching him dominate college ball see him as a symbol of something fresh untouched by Cleveland's endless cycle of dysfunction. What's brewing isn't just a quarterback controversy, it's a culture war. And how does Kevin Stefanski respond? By doubling down. More reps for the starter, more coach speak about development timelines, more stubborn resistance. But the harder he tries to control it, the more it slips through his fingers, because the real problem isn't Shedeur Sanders, it's everything he represents. He's the shiny new toy in a locker room sick of hand-me-downs. He's the dream in a franchise built on broken promises. He's the fresh start everyone's desperate for, even if it means detonating the present to chase it. And you better believe the front office feels that weight, too. Ticket sales, TV ratings, merchandise, all of it surges with Sanders in the picture. Which is why, behind closed doors, there are already whispers echoing through the organization, wouldn't it just be easier to start him? Not because it's the smartest strategic move, but because it would silence the chaos at least for a little while. Here's the twist of the knife, if Shedeur Sanders does start and stumbles, the entire fairy tale collapses in real time. The veterans who vouched for him? They'll lose faith. The fans who demanded his debut? They'll turn on him overnight. And the coach who finally caved under the pressure? He won't survive the season. It's not just a gamble, it's Russian roulette with a franchise's future. What we're watching isn't a quarterback controversy, it's a slow-motion unraveling of a locker room, not because of what is, but because of what could be. It's a masterclass in how hype, legacy, and desperation can drown out logic in professional sports. The Browns aren't managing a quarterback battle, they're performing open-heart surgery on their team culture with nothing but a butter knife. And through it all, Shedeur stands there on the sideline, helmet on, maybe waiting, maybe smiling, maybe wondering how he became the gravitational center of a storm he never asked to start. But this is the NFL, where perception is power, and Shedeur Sanders is fully loaded with it. The million-dollar implosion is sitting in plain sight. If Stefanski loses a few early games, the chants for Shedeur will only get louder. If the starter throws a few ugly picks, the pressure will become suffocating, and if the locker room keeps fracturing, brace yourself for a primetime broadcast of the Browns' latest implosion, Season 23, now starring Shedeur as the reluctant face of chaos. The moral? Maybe don't build your franchise identity around a rookie who hasn't played a snap. Or, in true Browns fashion, maybe do exactly that and just hope the football gods are finally merciful. Because at this point, what's another quarterback controversy among friends? The locker room isn't just divided, it's simmering. On one side, you've got veterans who've been around long enough to recognize the smell of dysfunction, and spoiler alert, it smells a lot like this. And yet, some of those same veterans are the ones pushing hardest for Shedeur, not because they crave fireworks, but because they're exhausted. Exhausted by the musical chairs at quarterback, exhausted by wasted seasons, exhausted by waiting. For them, Shedeur isn't just a rookie, he's the chance to break free of a cycle they've been trapped in for far too long. They've watched this team drag its feet year after year, selling the same old story with a different face, and now that they see something shiny, new, and maybe even legitimate, they don't want to wait around just to watch it spoil. On the other side, you've got the cautious optimists, the wait-and-see crowd, guys who know exactly how quickly an NFL career can unravel when a rookie is tossed into the fire too soon. They're not anti-Shedeur, they're anti-doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And right in the middle of all this chaos stands Shedeur Sanders himself, calm, collected, and seemingly unfazed, like the eye of the hurricane. But let's not kid ourselves, he knows exactly what's happening. You don't grow up under Deion Sanders without learning how to read a room. He's not blind to the whispers. He's not deaf to the pressure. But his cool silence only makes things worse, because in that silence everyone sees what they want to see. To some, he's the savior. To others, the threat. To some, the prodigy. To others, just a shiny marketing tool. A unifier to one corner of the locker room, a divider to another. He's become a myth before he's even thrown a pass, and hanging in the middle of it all is Kevin Stefanski, living his own personal hell. Imagine trying to glue together a locker room that's splintering in real time while also fighting to protect your own job. Every choice he makes, every game plan, every conservative fourth down call, every stiff press conference answer isn't just judged by fans, it's picked apart inside his own building. One misstep, and the Start Shedeur chorus doesn't just get louder, it gets more confident, more disruptive, more impossible to ignore. At this point, Stefanski isn't just coaching against opponents on Sundays. He's coaching against the narrative itself, and that's a battle no playbook can win. And speaking of narratives, let's not forget Cleveland's cursed quarterback history. This isn't baggage, it's a 50-piece matching luggage set with wheels, dragged through every lost decade since 1999. The Browns have cycled through more quarterbacks than some franchises have had in their entire existence. Each one came with a label, the savior, the fix, the future, and nearly everyone was chewed up and spit out by a system that never gave them the tools or time to succeed. So now here comes Shedeur, swagger intact, pedigree unquestionable, untouched by the institutional trauma, for now. But the fan base, the media, even the locker room are so scarred from the past that they've skipped the honeymoon phase entirely. The weight of history isn't waiting for him to play, it's already sitting on his shoulders before he's even thrown a pass. It's all or nothing now, immediate greatness or complete bust. There's no middle ground, no space for a slow burn, not in Cleveland, not after decades of false starts and broken promises. And here's the cruelest twist, Shedeur Sanders' actual development, his growth as a quarterback, has already been shoved into the back seat. The spectacle has taken the wheel. It doesn't matter if he's ready, it only matters if people think he's ready. And once enough people believe it, that belief becomes reality. That's the NFL in 2025. Optics are currency, and Shedeur is Wall Street hot stock, but optics don't just live online, they bleed into the locker room, and that's where the fracture becomes fatal. Half the team believes the coaches are suppressing the best player on the roster. The other half believes the organization is playing with fire by rushing him. That's not a team anymore, that's a civil war, and civil wars don't end with clean victories. They end with scars. Every meeting, every huddle, every practice rep is heavy with unspoken tension. The starting quarterback, whoever holds that job, knows he's on borrowed time. One interception, the crowd turns. One loss, the whispers return. One blown drive, and Shedeur's name isn't just murmured, it's screamed from the stands like a war cry, and you better believe the front office is keeping score. Stefanski's not the only one under the microscope. The execs upstairs are already weighing how much rope to give before someone demands a shake-things-up narrative. They'll call it a strategic pivot or injecting youth into the offense, but let's call it what it is, panic. Because when you build your season around a quarterback who isn't even playing, gravity always wins. The pull becomes irresistible, and that's where the story edges into dangerously poetic territory. There's a version of this script that plays out exactly how the Browns' history says it will. An ugly loss, a press conference quote gone viral, a fan revolt boiling over, and suddenly Shedeur's helmet is strapped, the cameras are live, the stadium lights are blinding, and he's shoved into the storm. And from there, it splits in two. Either he rises, proves the hype real, stabilizes the chaos, and rewrites Cleveland's cursed quarterback legacy, or he crumbles, gets blitzed into dust, loses confidence, and sparks an even bigger meltdown. And if that happens, the cycle starts all over again. And don't kid yourself, it happens in this league all the time. The NFL graveyard is littered with quarterbacks drafted into chaos, handed a broken franchise, and then blamed when they couldn't fix it. That's the cruel paradox of professional football. If you're good, you're expected to save the team. If you fail, the team convinces itself you were the problem all along. And that's exactly where the Browns find themselves, staring down a series of impossible decisions, none with clean outcomes. Hold Shedeur Sanders back, and you risk alienating veterans who already believe he's the guy. Play him too soon, and you risk breaking him before he ever gets a chance to grow. Trade the current starter, and you ignite full-blown drama. Or wait until the pressure cooker explodes, and then try to sweep up the pieces. Meanwhile, the fans are consuming every beat like it's reality TV. Headlines are plot twists, press conferences are teaser trailers, and practice throws are dissected like the Zapruder film. This isn't just football anymore, it's an episodic drama, and Shedeur Sanders is the main character whether he asked for the role or not. So here we are. The Browns have a quarterback controversy that hasn't even officially started, a locker room that feels more TMZ than X's and O's, a coaching staff trying to fend off mutiny on one side and hysteria on the other, and a rookie, still just a kid, standing in the eye of the storm, waiting for his moment, knowing deep down it might come at exactly the wrong time. And us? We're sitting back, watching it unfold like the most entertaining kind of mess, because when it comes to the Browns, they never implode quietly. They always go big, always go viral, always manage to twist promise into panic and hope into havoc. What's next? A players-only meeting? A passive-aggressive Stefanski soundbite? A cryptic IG story from Shedeur with nothing but a sand timer emoji? Whatever it is, it's coming, because this isn't a quarterback situation anymore, it's a slow-motion implosion. The only question is who gets buried in the debris. We've talked about Shedeur, Stefanski, the fractured locker room, and the cursed carousel of quarterbacks that has haunted Cleveland for 2 decades. But the real villain here isn't Shedeur's presence, or Stefanski's conservatism, or even bad play calling. It's the weight of expectation, the suffocating pressure of what people think should happen pressing down on a franchise that's been dangling on the edge of a cliff for 20 years. Everyone wants Shedeur to be the guy. Not just good. Not just serviceable. Not just a quarterback who can manage the game. No, the savior. The star. The miracle worker who finally rewrites the Browns' history. And that's the most dangerous burden of all, because when a team starts chasing myths instead of building foundations, the crash isn't just likely, it's inevitable. They're not just expecting a quarterback, they're expecting a savior, a messiah in shoulder pads. That kind of energy doesn't fade, it mutates. It infects the building, changes how people talk in meetings, how players carry themselves, how coaches call third and short. When everyone's waiting for magic, keeping a rookie on the bench feels like sabotage, and when things don't go perfectly, the fingers start pointing, quietly at first, then louder. And who's in the middle of it all? Shedeur Sanders. A rookie who hasn't even fumbled a preseason snap, already cast as either Cleveland's last hope or its next cautionary tale. That's the part nobody talks about. He's not just learning protections and coverages, he's doing it while sitting in the eye of a moral panic. In the film room, he's breaking down blitz packages while someone across the room scrolls posts about how the Browns are wasting him. In the weight room, he feels the side eyes, some teammates convinced he's the answer, coaches treating him like a nuclear button they're too scared to press. That's not development, that's a psychological minefield. And Shedeur knows it. He's not some wide-eyed rookie from a small program, he's Deion Sanders' son, built for the spotlight, raised in front of cameras, dissected by people who've never run a slant in their lives. But here's the truth, that famous last name cuts both ways. On the outside, it gives him power and marketability. On the inside, in a locker room as jaded as Cleveland's, it paints a target on his back. Oh, he's only here because of his dad. Oh, he's just a brand. He hasn't earned it yet. That's the quiet undercurrent. That's the poison. Because to some guys, Shedeur doesn't just represent competition, he represents someone skipping the line. And whether it's fair or not, that perception is just as dangerous as any pass rush he'll face on Sundays. So while the fans chant his name, while social media salivates over every clip, while ESPN panels build entire segments around the if and when, inside the locker room the vibes are getting messier by the minute. And Stefanski, poor Stefanski, he's starting to look like a man coaching from a bunker. The paranoia is real. He hears the whispers, he reads the headlines, and every time he steps to the podium and mutters, "We're going with the guy who gives us the best chance to win," you can practically see the blood vessels bursting behind his eyes. Because deep down he knows no one believes that anymore. Not the fans, not the team, maybe not even himself. Play it out. The Browns drop 2 games in a row, nothing catastrophic, just sluggish offense, a couple ugly picks, a defense looking fed up. Then boom, an anonymous leak hits the media, players questioning the team's commitment to winning. That's all it takes. Suddenly it's trending, Shedeur's name rockets back to the top, pundits are shouting, Twitter is melting, and Stefanski is staring at an impossible choice. If he caves and starts Shedeur, he looks weak, like he gave in. If Shedeur flops, Stefanski's the fool who lost control. If Shedeur thrives, Stefanski becomes irrelevant, the guy who didn't make the smart call, just the guy who finally got out of the way. That's how a coach loses the room. Not with screaming matches or blow-ups, but by fading into the background, becoming invisible in his own building. And that's what Stefanski risks now, turning into a figurehead while the real energy, the gravitational pull, swirls around a 21-year-old who hasn't even played a snap. And make no mistake, that energy is contagious. You can already see it in the sideline looks, the body language, the subtle shifts in loyalty. The younger guys gravitate towards Shedeur. He feels like the future. He talks like the future. And in a league where belief can be more powerful than logic, that makes him dangerous in the best way for the Browns, and in the worst way for Stefanski. Because if Shedeur gets in and flashes even a little, it's over. The whole locker room flips. The narrative locks in. The movement takes over. Players rally, fans anoint, and Stefanski is left trying not to get trampled by the very wave he tried to hold back. But if Shedeur gets in and doesn't pop, the backlash will be brutal. The same voices that demanded his debut will pivot overnight, branding him overrated, broken, another Browns bust. Stefanski will be torched for ruining his development, veterans who vouched for him will retreat and point fingers, and Shedeur himself will be left clawing through the wreckage of told-you-sos. This is what happens when hype outruns development, when a desperate franchise forgets to protect its future, when Cleveland once again builds a storm it can't control. So where does it go from here? Nowhere good unless Stefanski can pull off the impossible, winning without Shedeur while convincing everyone the kid's time is still coming. Unless Shedeur keeps his head down, the vets stay patient, the front office stops leaking, and the media finds another circus to chase. But come on, this is the NFL, and this is Cleveland. There's no hiding from the spotlight. The second Stefanski blinks, the offense sputters, or one stray postgame comment lights a match, the powder keg blows. And Shedeur Sanders, ready or not, willing or not, will be standing on the launch pad with the franchise strapped to his shoulders. One wrong step and it all goes up in flames. One right step and he's the savior they've been waiting for. Either way, grab your popcorn. Because win or lose, miracle or meltdown, this saga is already better theater than half the games on Sunday.